Hi everyone, welcome back to our little mini series on the 7 books that changed our life. We're up to book 6. So if you haven't heard the others, please head back onto our show and check them out. They're only about 10-15 minutes long. And as always, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So it's back over to me for an old classic, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie? I can't.
You struggle every time. Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. Damn it. Now, this is a real old staple. It was written back in the 30s. And I was handed it back when I joined my first sales job. Right. I was heavily advised to read it back when I was about 20. And it is a really, really good staple, particularly if you're just moving into a sales role or you're going into an office for the first time or something like that. I think it's a really, really good book. The premise of it is basically steps to be a good human. So things like being compassionate, being honest, being a really good listener, all the way to things that are really practical, like when you're meeting someone at a networking event, how you can remember their name, something I still struggle with, but so it's basically all the tips to become a very likable, very social person, which then in turn helps you in your sales, basically. And it is really, really, really good. It's quite an easy read. And it's amazing that it's still so relevant today, even though it was written all those years ago.
Yeah. When you say sales, is it just sales that you would read it in, or like?
No, I reckon any client-facing role. I really, really heavily recommend reading it if you're client-facing, account services or whatever. But it is just a good book anyway. I was
going to say, even if you're not client-facing.
Yeah, if any role that you're doing, meeting people, customer services, or it's just a really,
it help
really
even
good.
Internal? You meeting people who you work with.
Yeah, yes, it does. But this really does. For me, anyway, I felt like it really helped me understand people that I didn't know. So it doesn't really teach you how to be a good friend. Well, I suppose it does. I don't know. In a professional setting, if you're customer or client facing, I think it's an absolute must read. I'm going to read you though one particular passage, or it's not really a passage, a quote that has stuck with me, and it's literally helped me get through resignations, difficult people that I've had to deal with, rubbish customers, and I literally bring it to the forefront of my mind or like every time I go through a bit of hardship. And it is: any fool can criticise, complain and condemn, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. And honestly, that has helped me loads of times, just to not get to a very hot emotional state in certain situations. Or there's one particular resignation that I had to go through, and I was so anxious about it. And honestly, this passage helped me so much. Just like to not get annoyed with how they were reacting, or not be upset, or it just helped me stay really centered and really balanced, and don't get angry with them because then you become them. And actually the book went a step further for me around not just being able to sell, but actually how to manage myself in difficult situations. Because the book talks about all of the people that you come across that aren't on the same page as you, or they might have some varying opinions or whatever, and it just helps you deal with those but people that you would normally get frustrated with and walk away from. Just really, really helps you control. So it's something that it's still practicing. It's still human nature to get a bit emotional about things, but
of course. And what is obviously How to Win Friends, but what about the influence people? Does it talk about why is it titled that? Why influence people?
Well, I think it's the art of conscious manipulation, I suppose, not manipulating people to be a fraudster or whatever. But it's like, if I meet you at a networking event and I remember your name and I know that you've got 2 girls at home and you're really into golf, and then the following week I then call you up about a golf tournament, I'm influencing you because I'm being like a good human, therefore you might then do business with me in the future. Or so it's all about how you can be a genuinely good person to the benefit of yourself. I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, influencing people is like any sale that you have or any job role that you succeed in and things like that. That is what you are doing, isn't it? I think it's a great title because you are influencing people.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that is because I guess you could almost see influencing people as quite like a manipulative, like controlling thing. If you're like, you know, having an influence, a control over someone, but like you said, it's in a conscious way. That is what you are doing, isn't it? It's like I remember I read not from this book, but a few years back, that essentially all we as a species are doing is we're all put here, and then it's who can influence who the most becomes, you know, just gets higher and higher in terms of like wealth, money and success and things like that. It's just how many people they can influence. Yeah. Isn't it? Because that's what it is.
I mean, like on a basic level, if I walk into a shop with a bright smile on my face, I'm going to influence you in one particular direction rather than if I storm in and don't speak to you, you know, if you're behind the counter, for example.
Yeah.
So, and also I remember, I haven't read it for a long time, but I remember it talked about if you're successful and you go to a dinner party, how you can be honest and humble and noble and talk about such things without causing like resentment or making people dislike you for your position. So you might be a manager and you might need to give an appraisal, or you might need to give some constructive criticism. And it's all about kind of how to go about your business in a noble way, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's really good. I always end sentences with that. It's really good. Don't have anything else to say. It's really good.
Awesome.
So highly recommend it. Odd book, but still as relevant today. Yeah, definitely. So, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale.
Say it again.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Every time.
Carnegie. Okay. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Absolute staple and a must read. If you haven't read it and you're looking for the link, it's all in our show notes. Massive one from me.